Yeah, so I think a person who thinks that they're not ready, one of the key points in being able to really navigate the lifestyle is the ability to be.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We always strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy and positive approach to non-monogamy.
However, everyone approaches this a little different, and at its core, our show is about hearing and learning from the different experiences and approaches people have. With that in mind, it's important to remember that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of our own.
It's also important to remember that we aren't doctors or therapists and that we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on this show.
One final thing that we need to let you know about is that this podcast will hopefully include some explicit language. So, if that kind of thing offends you, we suggest you just keep listening until it no longer does. However, if you're under the age of 18, you should probably stop listening or gather up your parents and listen as a family. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 60. 60. That's exciting.
That's a good number.
We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an interview with Steak and Tequila. They're another podcast.
I think those are pseudonyms.
Yeah. Actually, you said it was tequila and steak because we always put the girl's name first.
We don't need to get into that fight again.
Their podcast is officially named Steak and Tequila.
It's actually getting into the swing of things with Steak and Tequila.
Yes, that's true.
The full name. The proper name.
Yes.
But nevertheless, it's an awesome interview. Check them out after you're done listening to this. They've got lots of awesome tips and tricks about meeting people, how they meet people, which is a little bit different than how a lot of people meet people. That's a lot of people's. They've got some really funny stories they tell. So yeah, it's a fun interview.
Yeah. I don't think we have much else to say at the beginning here.
Not a ton. Just if you are looking to also meet people, 2 apps that we're promoting and 2 friends of the show, not paid sponsors of the show, but things that we really want to support, other startups. One of them is #Open. If you want to learn more about them and what they do, check out episode 53.
Yep. The other one's Polyfinda.
Or Polyfinda, depending on how you pronounce it. Some of you, if you're Finns, you're Finn fans. That is episode 58.
Yep.
To hear their story and what they're doing. So check them both out and support them and support us by telling all your friends about us.
You can find us at our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Reach out on the contact page or contact us page. You can tell us hi, have a question, want to come on the show.
Yeah, and also under the resources page are links to both the apps that we just mentioned, as well as some other things that we believe in.
Yeah.
So go do that after you listen to this.
Yep, let's go to the show.
Here we are. Welcome, Steak and Tequila, to Normalizing Non-Monogamy. Thanks for warming up with us tonight.
Hello. We're happy to be here.
Yeah,
thanks for the invitation.
So for anybody who's not familiar, Steak and Tequila are pseudonyms, I suppose. Do you mind maybe talking a little bit about where they came from and the meaning behind them, and then we can go into your story?
Oh, this is a great story, actually. So this spans way before we were in the lifestyle. And so we will be married 20 years this year.
Wow, congratulations.
No, thank you. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
So as we all know, in long-term marriages, there's a certain point in time where things start to feel stale or boring, and you need a way to reconnect. And so we started doing Friday night date nights at home. And then it started with a cooking challenge. So we were supposed to have a certain amount of money, like a $20 budget or something like that. And then we would cook each other dinner, alternating every other Friday. And then Mr. Steak made a filet mignon dinner with grilled asparagus, hand-cut baked fries, with asparagus butter over the steak, and it was the best meal we have ever had.
Yeah.
And did it stay within budget? Just out of curiosity, was it?
Yeah. Maybe a couple bucks over. Filet, isn't really that expensive. I get 2 of them for, $15, $16, and throw in some asparagus, some potatoes there. You're right around, 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we've had that same dinner every Friday night for the past 7 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
7 years. That is our standard Friday night dinner. And then we'll have tequila cocktails with that. And then in the past, we would play video games, like a challenge, like a drinking game challenge or something. But it was a really fun party night for the two of us. And then Mr. Steak got into DJing. And so then it becomes a dinner and dancing night.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the DJing kind of came out of just something else to do on Friday nights. So I always love music and electronic music and all that. And got a cheap controller for kind of entry level type thing. And yeah, then it just became, all right, we'll do Steak and Tequila and then a little Friday dance party. And now that's blossomed. And now we have a whole crew that we run and throw parties, and our swinger career is out of control. And yeah, we don't half-ass things. So kind of all in or all out. So,
and it all started with that dinner.
It did. Yeah. Yeah. So that's where Steak and Tequila came up with. And I think we got that when we were setting up our Cassidy profile, and we're trying to think of what the hell to, what to name our
podcast.
No, our Cassidy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then I forgot who brought that up, but we stumbled upon that and yeah, perfect. That fits. Yep. So there you go.
Perfect. And so to clarify, Steak is Mr. Steak. And
that's me.
Tequila is Mrs. Tequila.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just so we don't have any confusion down the road.
Mrs. Steak would be a little weird, I think. So
it could be.
Could be, yeah.
So you mentioned a few things in there: lifestyle, Cassidy, and podcast. So it sounds like you guys might be lifestylers with a podcast who meet people on Cassidy. Is that a fair intro?
Yeah, so we actually started our podcast.
Which is called Getting Into the Swing of Things with Steak and Tequila.
Oh, thank you for that plug.
Good job. Thanks.
Right. But we started that right when we started our lifestyle adventure. So our first episodes are our introduction, our first, experience dating, our first swap, all of that kind of stuff.
And it's all the stuff leading up to it too. So our first episode, we hadn't even been on a date yet or anything. We had just kind of started talking to some people and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started fresh out of the gate. And so, we talk about Cassidy, which is the site that's best in our region, because everyone's lifestyle site is all based per region. And so then we just chat about our wild and crazy and sometimes weird adventures.
Yeah. And the idea came up because we go on multiple walks a day, and we just be walking and talking about things and all that. We're like, we're going to forget all this stuff in 20 years. So we might as well. We were listening to Swap Foos back then. Yeah.
And Swinger Diaries.
Yep. So we're listening to those. We're like, might as well do one. Obviously I know how to do audio stuff and all that. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do a podcast. So figure we might as well try our hand at it. And it's always been for us and just a record of kind of thoughts, feelings, events, all of that stuff. We've never wanted to do any filler type things like, all right, today we're just going to talk about sex toys, or today we're going to talk about, whatever. It's our life and just a chronicle of that. So our releases are a little spotty because of that.
Well, and maybe to fill people in then, how did you two decide to get involved in the lifestyle?
Where did the idea come from in the first place?
Oh, that's another great story. So we kind of did some toe dipping 20 years ago when we were first married. I guess we gave it a real good shot when we lived in Portland.
Yeah.
Because that's when we went on Adult Friend Finder and set up some dates and whatnot. But it was always just pillow talk, and I don't know, we've always just kind of been in that realm of kinky and fun.
Exactly.
And then we decided when we were young to go ahead and give it a shot. And then that first date that we went on was so creepy. The wife was not there. Well, it wasn't even a wife. It was a girlfriend at that point in time. There was a 20-year age difference. She was not there consensually. It definitely did not feel like that. It was a bad situation.
Yeah.
So did that turn you off then for a while?
Yeah, we hightailed it out of there and we're like, yeah, this is probably not going to work out.
Yeah.
So then that idea was still pillow talk for years and years and years and years.
So we had kids.
Yeah, and then we had kids. And then you kept talking about it forever. And there was this shift that had to happen in my mind because since we did get married so young, I mean, I was 19 when we got married and he was 21. And I came straight from a super religious family into essentially abandoning that and going into debauchery.
Yep. she was a good Mormon girl when I met her. So
yeah, very obviously not now.
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah.
But there was this shift that had to happen in my mind because for a while it felt like, you know, I had been with him all my life and it was something like something special. And so it took something to really change my perspective that sexuality is not like a gift. It's a part of you, you know? And so then after having all of these conversations, we're like, all right, enough is enough. Live life to the fullest. Fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah. And then I had a little health scare about 3 or 4 years ago, right when we started too.
Yeah.
Which is all resolved and all that stuff. But then it turned into the why not mentality. Like, why not? Just live life to your fullest.
Yeah.
Do it. Have fun. We'll just talk about everything as long as no one's getting hurt. You know, open communication, all of that stuff. Just why not fucking do it? You know?
Yeah, it really did come down to our bucket list philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, live every day like it's your last.
Yeah.
Right. And did your tequila side, did your mental shift take place during that health scare where you were able to let go of a lot of the hang-ups from the religion side of thing, or was that a process building up to it?
I think it was a process building up to it, but I think that health scare point was a catalyst. And then so on our Friday night date nights, we would watch porn or whatever. And after
Playboy swing.
Yeah, after that health scare, that's where we started to really watch Playboy swing and think about the lifestyle more seriously rather than as a fantasy. So then we had all of these conversations on those date nights that really laid the foundation to go ahead and jump into it.
Yeah.
And so the date you went on was almost 20 years ago when you showed up and the people were creepy and not a good fit.
Would have been like 2003, 2004, something like that. So yeah, 16, 17 years ago, something like that.
Pretty close.
You were in your mid-20s, sounds like. So like that's we started at that point too, and that's a rough time to try to meet people because a lot of people your age are not in necessarily relationships that are mature enough to handle those conversations, and it's just a difficult time. So I feel for you. Yeah.
And we say now we're very glad that it didn't go good because we weren't ready.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think if that date had gone well, you would have jumped into it then, or do you think you still would have?
We would have gone down in a fiery ball of flames between the two of us because our communication between the two of us just sucked then big time. So yeah, we have very different communication styles when it comes to each other. And some things happened and we ended up going through, and this wasn't lifestyle involved or anything. We went through some marriage counseling just to learn how to communicate with each other. And this was in that gap there. And we really learned how to communicate to each other, thoughts and feelings and all that, and listen to each other. So it was nice. So we went through that from that gap of that first date through having kids and all that, and really dialed in how to talk to each other and listen to each other and communicate and all that. So now it's, we're completely on the same page. There's no problems telling each other like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this or whatever. Like, there's just that open dialogue of everything. So it made that foundation of us that much stronger. And I thought we were super strong when we got started, but now it's even stronger. Literally, I'm by her side 24/7, just like you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We work together in the same office at home and party together on the weekends and, whatever. Like, we're by each other's side all the time. So
we are. And it's kind of kind of insane. But yeah, our marriage would not have lasted if we had started the lifestyle at that point at all. We absolutely would have been divorced.
Yeah.
It really did take a long time to build that foundation and learn how to become a super solid team. And then once we knew that we had that foundation, that made going into the lifestyle that much easier, because then there wasn't any kind of fear that it would ruin our relationship. We knew at that point that it would only enhance it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, for people listening that are maybe thinking about getting into this, that are saying, well, I haven't gone through counseling and this and that, I must not be ready. How did you know, or how did you get to the point where you're like, okay, I think we could handle this? Because, there's people who do it successfully that haven't had to take those steps that you did. I guess for anyone that is thinking, okay, maybe I'm not ready for this, what advice would you throw out there for them in terms of knowing that it's maybe a good time to try it?
Well, super funny. I think you can study up as much as you can, and you're never really ready until you get that hands-on experience. So when we first got into it, there were some other podcasters, I think it was the Bliss Bringers. They told us, they're like, you guys have a PhD in swinging because you've listened to so many podcasts and learned all of these things, but you lack the street smarts.
Exactly. Yeah.
You haven't been through it.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it was reading all the books, listening to all the podcasts, watching every season of Playboy Swing, and just diving deep into it and kind of having those conversations just as things popped up about, oh, what if this happened? Or, oh, what if this happened? Or whatever, and kind of talking through all that stuff in the beginning while we were trying to set up dates and all of that stuff.
Yeah, so I think a person who thinks that they're not ready, one of the key points in being able to really navigate the lifestyle is the ability to be introspective enough and self-aware enough to learn those life lessons and overcome those hurdles when you come across them. Because that's the key point in being able to be successful.
Yeah.
It's not going to go well every single time. There's going to be a shit show story. There's going to be some weird stuff that you're going to get into with other people, because other people tend to be crazy sometimes.
But I love that shit.
Yeah, no, it's
that's like the fun part. There's more fun parts than that. But
But having good stories.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. We always get a good story out of it. We've had so many shit show, just kind of dates, to go get a drink or whatever, just to see if we mesh. And it's just what the fuck was that? And I love that shit. Because it's just, then we just look at each other and laugh, and our fucking life is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's always entertaining.
So what's the craziest one you've had?
I was just going to ask that.
Oh, I will definitely say it was the unplanned, unexpected orgy that happened after a boudoir shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my pants-on lifestyle BFFs is a photographer, and she wanted to build up her boudoir portfolio. So then we've known each other for a few years since we got into the lifestyle, and so our understanding is that we are pants-on friends, because I feel like if we become really good friends and then we have a sexual relationship, then that could impact the friendship.
Yeah.
And so I care about her so much that I don't want to jeopardize that at all. So I go into this boudoir shoot thinking it's just going to be a regular photo shoot. And she has other ladies there too as models who are lifestyle. So the photo shoot goes great. We have some hot photos. And then one of the girls decides to go down on me in bed. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that this was going to happen, but I'm not going to say no. And then the other girl happens to be a good friend of hers, not family, but close enough to be family. So she's mixed in with this. So now there are 3 girls in a boudoir shoot getting it on. And then they tell me that they're call Mr. Steak and tell him to come and bring all of the condoms and all of the stuff. So I call him
That's
up.
a good phone call to get, huh?
Yeah. the thing is, like, it's a Sunday afternoon. I dropped her off at like 2:00 in the afternoon. I'm just hanging out, like, with the kids, eating pizza, watching football, all that stuff. And I get a text because I dropped her off because I knew she'd be drinking and all of that. So dropped her off. And then I get a message. She's like, come pick me up. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Start driving. And then I get the bring condoms. I'm like, I'm in the car, just like pull over, like, what's going on? Like, I'm in a hoodie and shorts, and like, I'm powered all day. It's like, fuck. So I like Tokyo drifted back home, like get showered, get dressed, grab our huge swinger duffel bag, like all this shit. But then in the middle of like getting ready, you said something like, one of them's bleeding. Like, it was.
Yeah. So I said, be prepared, but be prepared to back out. So while he is grabbing all of these things to come to the hotel room, and the two ladies and I are on this bed, you know, having some fun, the two girls are together and they are fingering each other so violently with long fingernails that one of them gets lacerated on the inside of her vagina. And that's when I texted him. I was like, hold up. Be prepared to not do anything, because I'm like, I'm not about that.
And she's drunk, she's busy, so there's like spotty in between text messages, so I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, I just know there's a bunch of girls there, and they said to bring condoms, so that's kind of what
that's what you're trying to do.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah. So the girl who is bleeding jumps in the shower, gets cleaned up. And then the girl who made her bleed gets cleaned up too. And then Mr. Steak shows up shortly after that. And then the bleeder ends up just like jumping on him.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Like no introductions, no hellos, anything. Just like, hey, can I give you a blowjob?
Yeah. And it was like the most aggressive, like dry yank with a hand I've ever had. And then she's like trying to give me a blowjob, but she's using teeth. And she's like, what, you don't like toothy blowjobs? I'm like, no, not at all. Like, that's not my thing. Then she tried like 4 or 5 times, just like coming back to me. And it's just, I had to keep pushing her away, which hurt her feelings, but I wasn't into the teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was tricky to navigate this orgy, because then my photographer friend comes back into the room with her husband, and we all have this agreement, you know, that we're pants on. So they're kind of on the outside of the orgy. And then I won't let the other two girls anywhere near my vagina with their fingers, because
safe move.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Like, you know, this is a protected space. You got to treat it well. So I wasn't about to get lacerated. And not only that, I mean, there's now an open wound in one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not doing anything with you. I ended up riding one girl's face the entire time.
That was like 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours. Just, you know, right in her face, hanging out. Yep. I'm like, I'm going to be a pillow princess tonight. Yeah. So it was interesting in trying to navigate all of this weirdness and make it actually a fun experience.
And everyone's hammered, and I'm in there stone cold sober, just like, all right. Yeah, it was a little overwhelming. So
did your friends that are pants on lifestyle friends, did they join in at all, or did they just watch?
They did.
They joined in with the other two girls, and so we were all in the mix.
It was kind of like rotating through the other two girls. Over there, one over there, and whatever. So, yeah.
Right. So that was totally fine. I don't think that crossed any boundaries for us at all, because we are, you know, lifestyle BFFs. So it was an experience where we were able to share a sexual experience without it impacting our relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy.
So
it's a crazy story.
So
we have a whole like hour-long podcast that goes into more detail on it.
Yeah. So maybe then, now that we've freaked everybody out, not all of your encounters don't go quite that wild, I would assume. Only
no,
like 50%.
not all of them.
Yeah.
Actually, probably 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
That would definitely be the weirdest. But we've definitely had like some super hot experiences for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. So probably our friends with benefits, that was one of the hottest experiences.
Yeah.
So usually when we play with other people, we're in the mindset of we're going to play once, and if it's great, then we'll be open to playing again. Just to kind of make sure that that sexual chemistry is there.
Yeah.
Which is totally different than a lot of other people in the lifestyle, because they put friendship first and then they go into a sexual relationship. And we started out that way. The sex was terrible. Yeah. And it was such a weird, awkward experience to like pull out of that friendship, because then it was like, okay.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because you said you guys became really good friends and you didn't want the sex to impact that. So I was curious, it sounds like your strategy is fuck right away and then figure out if there's a friendship compatibility or something else beyond that, I guess. Yeah, could you elaborate on that now that I cut you off?
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, no, that is totally our strategy, because it is really difficult to navigate a friendship with terrible sexual chemistry. And so we have tons of friends already. We have really great vanilla friends.
Yeah.
We're not in the mindset that we're in the lifestyle to make a lot more pants-on friends. We're in the lifestyle to have sexual experiences together.
And personally, I hate the word lifestyle, because it's not, like, to us. It's to me, I guess. It's more a hobby. You know what I mean? It's not like I live and breathe this, and, you know, like,
right.
Like marathoning is a lifestyle, or, you know, doing meth is a lifestyle, or, you know, whatever. Like, you know, it's nothing that defines us, or, you know.
Right. Yeah. No, swinging is not our identity at all. But yeah, so I suppose that's where some people go into a friendship first, because it is part of their circles, they're part of their identity. So for us, it's a hobby, and we want to make sure the sex is really great. And so we go on a date, and if there is chemistry at the table with everyone and we're having a great time, then we're totally down to hit the hotel room and see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
And we've had experiences where it's been like, okay, well, that was fun, but that was really kind of average sex. I don't really want to do it again, even though it would have been fun for drinks. And then there are people where they are super fun at the table, and then they are super, super fucking fun in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then those are the people that we want to keep really close. They are rare gems, really.
They are, yeah.
And so we have a couple who has, you know, passed all of the gauntlet of our criteria, and they became our friends with benefits, and those nights are
the best.
So hot.
So you are open to the let's have an awesome friendship, but it's got to be built, for you, it's built on a pillar of good sex for these types of friends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then there are times that we'll go out for a cocktail date and we'll realize that there's no real sexual chemistry at the table, and we are totally fine with having them as pants-on lifestyle friends.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's a great approach, actually, because finding chemistry among two people is hard. 4 people is even harder. And I think it's, you don't realize how important it is until you find people that you have really good chemistry with. And then you're like, oh, wow, maybe those other experiences, while they were fun, they were not quite the same.
Exactly. Yeah. Because like our first experience, we had met a local couple here, and then we just, Tequila went on like a camping trip up in Montana. So she was gone for like a month. It took like 6 months for our first date to like actually happen. And there was a lot of chatting and lead up and all that. And it was horrible. That was our first episode. It ended in another bloody mess.
It is 50%.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then we just jetted the fuck out of there after it. And it was just like, because it was one of those things where we became friends and the sex was horrible and like never want to do it again. So it's been, you know, over these, 3-4 years, or it's just kind of this constant evolve where we're at now. And we kind of have the right cadence to vet people and all that. So like I'm on Tinder and Bumble and all that. So, you know, I'll look for people. Tequila will look for people, all that. And then we kind of have this thing where it's like, we'll kind of have some surface level chat with these people, and then, show each other like, hey, talking with this person, blah, 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 blah. Do you want to move it to Kick? And then we'll bring in the other one and then go from there. So,
yeah.
And so do you try to move it pretty quick to maybe an in-person meeting? You don't spend weeks and weeks going back and forth for that same reason. Then you invested a bunch of time and found it was a bust.
And it all depends on timing too. Like, with jobs and kids and all that stuff, sometimes it's hard to, get schedules synced up and all that. So, but we try to move it pretty quick. So it's just not pen pals, because then they become too good of friends to Miss Tequila after too much chatting. And then it like kind of shuts that door sometimes. So,
right. Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned then too, you guys meet people. Obviously, it sounds like not just Cassidy, but do you meet people individually on other platforms like Tinder, Bumble, or is it finding people individually and then bringing it to a group situation?
Yeah, find people individually and then bring them to a group. Like we've tried the solo stuff. Like I travel quite a bit for business and all that. So like, I've had solo experiences, and then same with tequila, and it's just not as fun. Like, sure, it was a good time or whatever, but there's so much that's like missing, because half the fun is watching you have fun and all of that. So it just didn't seem the same. Like I always thought it'd be super hot to do, but then in actuality, when it actually happened, it's just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so even though we're on Tinder and Bumble and Field individually, our profiles are very clearly stating that we're looking for group experiences.
Yeah.
And so we have pictures of both of us and all of that kind of stuff. So he'll connect with women. I have my profiles set to connect with women because it's easier to find non-monogamous people through women on those kind of platforms. Mm-hmm. And so we have Cassidy, Tinder, Bumble, Field, and we all filter through that and then go on dates that way. And have a group conversation on Kick too, just to make sure everyone has something to talk about. And then, we go to the date.
Yeah.
It's a lot to manage.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
It's a part-time job.
But I guess you touched on it briefly, but elaborating a little bit on how you use like Bumble and Tinder to meet people that are non-monogamous. Because I've not spent any time on there, and I don't know, is it full of people looking for this type of thing, or is it just horny people looking for something?
It's just horny people looking for something, and it's definitely a numbers game, especially on my end when, I'm set up as a male looking for female, on the apps. Not a lot of them are looking for that, maybe bi-curious or whatever, like looking for this situation. So it's a lot more effective on Tequila's end than on mine. But I'm always in the cast a wide net type thing. And like, I'll chat with anyone, have drinks with anyone, we will, whatever. And just kind of, it's a numbers game. So.
Yeah, and I'm a lot more selective about the people that I match with. And so we've had success for sure from matches on Bumble and actually all of them, Bumble, Field, and Tinder.
Our friends with benefits came from Field. So,
yeah, they totally did. So it actually works as a like complementary kind of avenue or vertical.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the sales funnel.
Yeah.
It is. That's exactly it.
And we were talking the other night, like we've had better luck on the apps than we have on Cassidy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Cassidy's great. It's good for finding about parties and all that stuff. But we're talking sales, like our closing ratio, to a good experience has been higher on the apps than it has on Cassidy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're on Cassidy all the time,
Yeah.
So
that's good to know.
Yeah.
Not to knock Cassidy at all, but at least for us, it's been more successful, the other ways. So.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's good. It's a good strategy to have, and one that I don't know that we would have tried if we hadn't just heard it. So something to do.
We've talked a little bit about trying some of the dating apps, but it, like you said, it is the effort to try to cast a wide net. And I think that's what people have to remember, and not just get discouraged if you try, even 5 or 10 people and get shut down. Like, just keep trying and be honest, and be honest for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And then also, you can't do the apps if you are very concerned about your identity being known, because you're going to be matching with people in the vanilla world, and people in your circles are going to see that you are out there dating. Especially
for me, because it's men looking for women. So, yeah.
And so I had an experience where one of the house parties that we went to, I ran into a former boss there. And so that was super awkward to begin with. And then we had this conversation, making sure it's not weird for me if it's not weird for you, and just kind of patching everything up. And then she let me know that in our previous office, one of the girls found my profile on one of the apps, and at their office happy hour, passed the phone around and had a nice little gossip session about that. And so now we know that everybody knows what we're up to. And it was fine because we knew that was a possibility getting on there to begin with. And we're kind of in the mindset of like, we really don't give a shit who knows. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that is a very real possibility for people who do care.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Yeah. Because I was just going to ask you, do a lot of your vanilla friends all know too?
Yeah, we actually came out to pretty much everybody who matters.
Yeah.
So
especially our DJ crew that we play with, because we found that it works really well when we're talking about like casting a wide net, where there's people that are kind of like on the fence, that we're on the fence about, like, I don't know if they'll be fun or whatever. We just invite them to our shows and our parties. Like, hey, just come over here, throw in a show, this night, tickets are $5, whatever. Just come to the show and come say hi, because we're going to be out. We're going to be there anyways. We're going to see if they can hang and if they'll show up at the same time, where we don't have to go out of our way to get all dressed up, ready, and, all that. And we're already in our element. So we had to come out. There's 10 other DJs kind of in our crew that we run, came out to all of them just so if something was happening, like, oh, Tequila's over here talking to this dude, what's going on? So then there's not all these chatter going on between them, like, fuck, do I tell him or should I tell her because he's over there with him? Just so it's not weird.
Yeah, we didn't want to create any awkward experiences for our crew, so we let all of them know, and then all of my best friends know. They knew right away when we got in the lifestyle. Your best friends knew too.
Yeah.
And so I personally hate having secrets and living undercover, because I feel like that gives other people power to either manipulate or whatever. I just don't like having secrets. I think there's more power in being able to be open and owning what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so that happy hour experience was actually a really great example of that, because if I had cared, that would have been traumatizing. But since I didn't care and I was already out to the people that mattered, then what the fuck does it matter?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great attitude. And
Have you received pushback from any of those people that you've told?
No, they're all jealous.
I suppose that's a good reaction.
Yeah. At least from the guy friends, it's all high fives. You're like, holy fuck, you're lucky. Yep, I have the worst life ever.
Yeah, and all my girlfriends are like, tell us more stories.
Right.
Yeah, they want to hear everything.
Yeah.
They totally do.
None of them know about the podcast, though. So.
Yeah, our DJ crew does not know about the podcast, but my close circle of friends do know about it.
Yeah.
So that we do kind of keep a secret a little bit.
Yeah.
But we won't tell anyone. Have the things that you are into evolved over the years? Like what you were looking for on day one versus what you look for today?
Definitely realized that Miss Tequila loves the ladies. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely an evolutionary process that happens in the lifestyle when you gain more experience. And so I would say that there are a couple key points. The biggest one is definitely being able to explore the bisexuality side. And so being married so young and coming out of religion, there was never any kind of mindset where it was like, thinking of women as, other sexual opportunities. It was always women were beautiful, and I would appreciate women for sure. But then when we started getting in the lifestyle and we were going through profiles, it was really important to me that I thought the other wife was hot. And I'm like, why is it so important to me that I need to think she is hot? And it really just kind of took a duh, dumbass kind of moment. Like, well, it's because you're bi, you idiot. So once that really started to kind of sink in, and then having those experiences, after the experiences, it was like, oh shit, I'm definitely bi. So there was that embracing piece. And then I would say also, too, the kink aspect kind of evolved a little bit. Yeah.
Throw
that out there.
Right. So another really interesting realization is that kinks might not work between us, but they work really well in other swinging situations. And so we have all of the sex toys here at home. And so we've given impact play a shot, with crops and whips and whatever. And it was never really like mind blowing. It was always like, oh, that's kind of fun, but whatever. I'm not totally into that. And then we go to the club and we had some friends there who had an entire bag of BDSM toys, and they had a flogger and all of that. And the wife started flogging me, and I was like, oh shit, this is amazing. What the hell is going on? I love this. And so it was really understanding what that kink meant to me and why it was so interesting. Mm-hmm. And then realizing that that's not going to work with everybody.
Yeah. Some people trigger things that other people don't, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm curious on Steak's side, and this is maybe a more general question, but seeing that happen, like something that you tried didn't work, and then somebody else tried that same thing, and it was fireworks, right? Does that trigger any type of jealousy or envy in you, or is it just, hey, happy to see her happy?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what all boils down to. There's never, since we've been in the lifestyle, there's never been an ounce of jealousy or anything like that on my end. I just like to see her happy. Like, that's why I've organized gangbangs for her and things like that where there's nothing in it for me, especially physically, than just seeing her having a good time. So
I think that's I love hearing that, because I think
it's not as common.
It's not, and it's really easy, even if you don't think it's going to happen, right? Maybe something as basic as just penetrative sex, right? Like, you and your wife are having sex, and she has an orgasm, that's great. And then you see her with another guy, and it's a totally different orgasm or a totally different experience, and you're like, well, she didn't seem to enjoy it that much with me. And so maybe it's not the flogging, or maybe it's not a specific act, but just the way somebody reacts to you versus the way they react with somebody else can be tough to swallow.
Yeah. Luckily, I guess for me, Miss Tequila is a mystery wrapped in an enigma that it's taken me, like this long to like fine tune and find all of her sweet spots and, hear those little nuances and how she's breathing and how to mix things up. And like, I give mad props if anyone else can figure that. But I think, unfortunately, I've set the bar very, very high for other males, that we're having sex with and whatnot. So it's none of them have been able to reach that. That's why she likes the females so much more.
Well, it's a mix for sure, but so he, being together for so long, he knows exactly what to do to make it an amazing experience. And then also, because of that history, being together feels like home. So there's, it's super, it's like we're one. Whereas with other people in swinging experiences, there's not that level of vulnerability. And there's still like layers of anxiety that I might have to peel off. And all of that definitely makes it harder to have a similar sexual experience. So I might not be able to have an orgasm in every single sexual experience when we're swinging.
You've literally had one.
I've had one.
Yeah.
And that's because that person, who happens to be one of our friends with benefits, had the patience of a goddamn saint.
Yeah.
And then like real communication about, what it takes for me to get off. In other situations, people don't even come close to that. So it's more just about sharing a sexual experience rather than reaching orgasm, which is still amazingly fun for me.
Yeah. And I would say in 90% of the times, I don't even come either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's never the goal. It's just having fun,
Right. And I think that's a really good point too, because there's so much pressure to reach orgasm, right? And there's so much fun to be had that it takes the pressure off, and then maybe it happens without even worrying about it.
Exactly.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. It's a nice bonus if it happens, but, and we tell people that, especially like on my end, like, hey, I like to go for 3 hours at a time. So, and we wear a lot of people out that like can't go that long and hard and intense and all that stuff. I'm like, don't take it personally. It's not you. So we kind of let people know that ahead of time.
The marathon warning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
But marathoning is a lifestyle.
Exactly. Yes. Along with meth.
But we're not doing meth.
We're not doing meth. No.
I don't know. I'm proud of that one.
Yeah, good one.
I think a question that I thought of when you were saying that, which is not necessarily a question I have personally, but one that could easily be asked is, if the best sex you have is with each other, then what is the driver still to keep coming back to it?
Because it's fun.
Hey, I'm not asking you.
No, but you're right. It's fun. I love all the parts of it's fun. The throwing the wide net, the chatting with random people during the week, the going out for drinks, even if we know nothing's going to happen, but getting dressed up and just doing it. It's our hobby. You know what I mean? Like I say, some people golf. We do this. And there's a lot more than golfing than just putting it in the hole at the end. There's picking out the clubs and what you're going to wear, and are you going to get a cart, or are you going to pull your clubs with you? There's so much that goes into the whole activity. It's not just putting the ball in the hole. That the whole thing is fun. Yeah.
No, I totally get it, and I want that was the whole point was. And I think it's important to hear that, and I think it's important for people to hear that. Even if you go to dinner and it's a total shit experience, or you make it past dinner and then it's an even shittier experience, like, you got to take that and embrace it and have fun with it, because there's really no reason not to. You're going home with your partner and you're going to have a fun time no matter what. Maybe you don't have sex that night, but you might have it tomorrow, and you can laugh about it, and you'll be laughing about it for years.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's the nice thing. Like I would say about drinks, like, worst case, we're all dressed up, because we like I said, we don't half-ass anything. So when we go out for drinks, we are all decked out, presenting our best selves, all that. Miss Tequila usually has some fun lingerie on underneath or whatever, thinking if something might happen. So worst case, we've had a couple drinks. We just come home and fuck each other's brains out. And like, that's a great worst case scenario. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
No, and then on the flip side too, not only is the getting ready and all of the all-encompassing aspects of the lifestyle fun, it's the communication that really keeps us going. So we did take a podcasting hiatus break when life got really crazy and we couldn't keep up with everything. And that was one of the key reasons why I wanted to get back into podcasting, is because we were missing that element of exciting conversation and self-development and
the debriefs
and all of that kind of stuff. Those are really important aspects to me personally in the lifestyle.
Yeah. And maybe, do you have any other tips for people that you said you went through some counseling to learn the way to communicate to each other, but maybe something that you recommend to people that are trying to figure out that communication. Not that you're psychologists or anything, but that you've had some practice and yeah.
Have these conversations sober on like a Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon and see how it feels. That's a big thing, because like I said, a lot of it was pillow talk for years, drunk at 2:00 in the morning on a Friday night. And it sounds great then. Have those conversations during the day when you guys are completely sober and, whatever, and see how that feels and see if you still think the same thing then. I think that's my bit of advice for it.
Yeah, that's true. And I think there is a level of just being willing to go with the flow is another important piece. So that's one of the key pieces that we learned in our counseling is not only our communication skills together, but really it was the teamwork aspect. And for me, that teamwork aspect not only included, how we work together, but it's how I worked with myself in different environments. So if I felt insecure or unstable in anything, it's easy to have an increased spike in anxiety. Mm-hmm. The entire lifestyle is nothing but unpredictability.
Yeah.
Right. And so learning those, life balancing skills and going with the flow was crucial.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge.
Yeah, I think those are great tips too. You mentioned you took a break from the podcast. Has there been a point where you have both considered pulling back from the lifestyle altogether?
We did pull back when we were on our podcast hiatus too. Mm-hmm. So it was a 9-month break between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I think that break was actually really important because leading up to it, the lifestyle itself felt really overwhelming and that it was taking up too much of our life. And then the podcast did too. And it just felt like there was a lot of pressure and a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. And the DJ stuff was taking off and just work stuff and all that. And it just became too much. And that was kind of our thing when we started with the podcast was that I said, if it feels like work, I'm not going to do it. Like doing it just for us. This isn't a job. We're not, we don't have a Patreon. We're not trying to make money. We're not, selling ads or anything like that. The minute that this seems like work or a bunch of bullshit stuff pops up in the lifestyle, which happened then, there was this whole messy shit going on with another couple or a couple couples and all that stuff. And like, that was just pissing me off. And then the podcast stuff started to seem like work because we used to have like a great website that we kept updated and on Sex Talk Tuesdays every Tuesday. And there was just like so much on it that it just seemed like work. And I was just like, no, I'm done. Like, we're taking a break for a while. Like, this isn't.
It's not fun anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. And that break was great because I think it was never predetermined, like, okay, we're going to take a break for this long or whatever. It was just like, we're breaking and that's it. Then we went on with our normal lives, which was fine. And we still had our Friday night date nights and all that stuff. Nothing had changed between the two of us. And then things started to like calm back down and all that. I'm like, all right, let's get back into it. And I think really after that break is where we've really kind of found our stride and had the most fun with it. Like, we're kind of just able to analyze what we like, what we don't like, the cadence of communication with other people and figuring, all these things out. And then since the break, we've had nothing but great, fun experiences and all that. There hasn't been any, like Miss Tequila likes to call, bags of flour. They used to be, we'd have a bad experience or something weird would happen. And it'd be like someone drops a bag of flour and she has to wait for all the flour to settle. And it would take sometimes weeks to like process through all of this stuff. And none of that has happened since this break.
Yeah, no, that break was really important because I think it helped us find balance. And then when we came back, we definitely learned all of those life lessons on, not only what we wanted, but how to deal with that. So that whole bag of flour analogy is just the process of processing your feelings when things don't go great. And we've had some weird shit go on, like that orgy. And there is no strange feelings to sort through after that. It was really getting our stride and having great times.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, again, awesome advice. And I think when people first get into this, and I know we did this a little bit, like you go 150% and you think you have to meet everybody who talks to you because there'll never be another one. And we have to go do this and we have to go do that because what if it never happens again? And then you step back and you take a little break and you're like, no. There's basically an infinite supply of people always coming in and out. You don't have to deal with all the crazy. Like, you deal with it a little, but you don't have to deal with it all the time.
That's fun. I like that. I like dealing. Yeah.
That's true.
The crazy ones are the best in bed. So a little bit of that.
I know I don't have anything to follow that.
Yeah, no, this has been.
Well, do I hope I'm crazy now? I guess.
We're all a little bit crazy.
I think everyone has their little bit of crazy, a little bit of weird. It's just human nature.
Exactly.
Well, I think one of the questions we always like to ask towards the end is a blooper. You kind of.
They already answered that.
Well, they've shared a few, but I mean, there's got to be one more that's.
Oh, okay. This one's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a local Mexican restaurant that we go meet people for. Oh, and another pro tip: don't eat Mexican food before you're going to go swing. That has nothing to do with this, but we meet there for margaritas. I judge people if they're going to be ordering nachos when they're there for a date or whatever. Don't do that. Eat ahead of time. Just go for drinks. So I digress. So it was a couple that we had met on Reddit.
Oh, shit. Okay.
This was great. So a couple we met on Reddit, lived in the big city about an hour away, knew about the podcast, all this stuff. They seemed cute and fun enough. Like, hey, come on up for drinks, all that. Let's chat. It was the first time we had done kind of one of these in-person, just little dates, with a precursor of the hotel if things go right. And so we were trying to figure out a signal of, the way to communicate to each other if we were into it or not. And yeah, I know. But so we decided that it was going to be, and I forgot what it was, a couple taps on the leg was supposed to be a no. Three taps on the leg.
It's supposed to be like SOS.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah. Three taps on the leg was supposed to be SOS. I was drinking. We've been chatting for a long time. I thought things were going pretty well. He was chatty. She was quiet. I had a bunch of tequila in me. I was all horned up, all of that. And then we got to the end of it. And, before they had kind of asked, I had gotten the 3 taps from Miss Tequila under the table. And they're like, so what do you guys think? Do you want to go grab a hotel? Or actually, you know what? Our kids were gone, so we were going to bring them back to our place and play music and all that. We had the house to ourselves that night. And I was like, yep, we have a little signal that we have underneath the table. And it's 3 taps if she wants to do it. So let's go. Let's go over to our place. And I get this death stare from Miss Tequila. And we're walking out to the car. And she's like, motherfucker. 3 taps meant SOS. It meant no. Oh, fuck. So we're driving. They're following right behind us. All of that. I pull up into the garage. They pull up right behind. Miss Tequila just hightails it into the house. And then I jump out real quick and go to their door. I'm like, hey, sorry. I fucked up. I misread the signals. It's nothing personal, nothing like that. She's just not feeling it. Hope you guys have a good night. Safe drives back home. And they're like, okay, cool. Because they were seasoned vets. We're like, cool, no problem at all. Oh, by the way, you have a tail light out. So just to let you know.
And I'm a cop, and here's your ticket.
Right, exactly. 2 days later, I didn't change the tail light, and I got pulled over by a cop. And we still had a kick conversation. So I made sure to message him like, hey, thanks for that. I should have changed it. I got a ticket for having a tail light out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
It's always fun when we're the bearers of our own bad fortune.
Right?
Because we never want to take one for a team or, get in that awkward situation. So it's just kind of like that. I fucked up. I gotta, I gotta just go and say,
good,
hey.
I mean, good for you for like just coming clean and not trying to push through it and like convince her that, oh no, it'll be fine. Like at that point, it wasn't going to happen. And you just got to be like, well, sorry, and people who are adults and they're doing this, like it sucks to be turned down, but I'd rather somebody be honest with me.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to do, but it's an important thing to do for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, and now I'm curious though, what is an acceptable food to eat during?
Oh, you know that you don't eat Mexican either.
Why are you fighting with me every question I ask tonight? Jesus.
I'm not fighting with you. I was answering them. Anyway, good question.
I'll interview you later.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying like on a date?
Yeah. Like if we're gonna meet on a date, like what is acceptable and unacceptable?
It's actually a good tip for people.
Food to eat.
We never eat ever. We always eat ahead of time, and I always make the goddamn steak dinner with asparagus and fries like every time before we go on a date, because we found it's the perfect base of food to have if you're going to be drinking a lot and all of that, where it kind of keeps you in check.
Yeah, so we do have our steak dinner at home together instead of having a dinner out with couples. And so we always stick with drinks with couples. Although I would say the asparagus part may be questionable for many people.
It's true.
So
I was just going to ask
Valid
that.
point.
Right?
Yeah.
It's fine for us because we've been eating asparagus for 7 years every week.
Yeah.
So whatever. But other people might be like, wait a minute.
Right.
Some tastes a little funky.
Yeah. But
maybe stick to the green beans.
Green beans.
Yeah, but no, we've never had a dinner, because we usually, schedule it for 8, 9 o'clock to meet for drinks, a little bit later. So it's kind of standard that it's not dinner time. It's just drinks later on.
Yeah. And then if you're having a bad experience and it's just drinks, it's easier to get out of cocktails than it is an entire dinner.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Another good pro tip.
Yeah.
We're full of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like you guys know what you're doing.
Sometimes.
Trial and error.
Many errors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Back to your original point where you got to have some experience under your belt. Like you're going to make those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, is there anything you want to unload to our listeners before we bid you farewell into the polar vortex that is consuming the country?
Fortunately, we're not that cold.
Yeah.
But no, I think we pretty much covered everything. So if people want to find us, they can find our podcast as Steak and Tequila. And we're on Twitter, like with you guys, as Steak and Tequila. And then we're on Reddit as Steak and Tequila. And then we're also on Snapchat as Steak and Tequila.
We have a lot of fun on Snapchat.
We do have a lot of fun on Snapchat. I think we were one of the few podcasters on there, actually.
Yeah.
And so.
Good to know.
Yeah.
We will put links to everything in our show notes. We still do have a website, unlike
right, unlike us.
Way to call them out.
Trying to get
like I said, we're either all in or all out. Like, no, we're fucking done. We're not paying for hosting. We're not paying for this. Like everything. We shut down our SoundCloud that hosts our podcast. Like we pulled everything. It's fucking done. Like all in, all out. So
well, now we're all in again.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we're happy to hear it, and we're happy you guys came on. We had a hoot.
Yeah, it was fun chatting.
That was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, maybe we'll do it again sometime soon. And until then, we will have a good evening.
Thanks. You guys too.
Yep.
Bye.
Welcome back.
Nailed it. Every time you nail it.
Or you do.
I'll nail it. Ooh. Text message. Anyway, your turn.
What are you, like a goldfish?
Squirrel.
Squirrel.
Your turn. Thank you to Tequila and Steak, as they say here on the podcast, for coming on.
Getting into the swing of things with Steak and Tequila.
For coming on the show and sharing a little bit about yourselves. Not that you don't do that on your show.
No, but it was, we had a blast chatting.
And I'd like to think we got some unique stories.
Oh, yeah. I think
and
so
some
too.
unique tips.
Mhm.
So thank you to them for that. Next week, we got something big happening.
Yeah, next week. So first off, it's our 1-year anniversary from starting our podcast. And
Doo-doo-doo.
woohoo, yay! So that's really exciting. To, I guess, celebrate our 1-year anniversary, we have an interview with the first ever couple that we interviewed on episode 2. So
Taylor and Ryan.
yes, so
The whole reason this thing exists
Yeah.
because they were willing to come on and do an interview. So we're going to thank them because they hate it when we thank them.
because we thank them all the time.
And we're going to say, check that out. It's a super awesome interview.
They've had some major changes in their relationship since we interviewed them last May.
That's the reason we did it. It wasn't just like, hey guys, how's it going?
No.
It's like major revelation time.
Yes, exactly.
So, while you're thinking about those major revelations, check out the resources page on normalizingnonmonogamy.com.
Can you say that any faster?
I could, but they wouldn't understand it then. And while you're there, you'll see a way to save $10 off at stdcheck.com. Do that. It supports us and it supports better testing awareness in the non-monogamy community.
Wow, you're talking so fast. That's stdcheck.com. Go check it out on our website, please. It's awesome.
And we'll see you in 1 week for our 1-year anniversary.
Woohoo!
Ciao.
Bye, everyone.